Welcome to My Asshole Podcast. Let's get into it. Welcome to My Asshole Podcast. Let's get right on into today's episode. Today is Thursday, and it is King of Wrath Day, where we have chapters 29 and 30 to go over. Hope you guys have been enjoying the book. I know I have. I'm excited to see where our characters are going to go to next and what's going to happen to them. But before we get into today's book, we have our thread. Today's thread is a pretty interesting one. It is people who have quit a job with no notice. What made you quit? All right. So let's see what the heck made y'all just say, boop, this job, I'm up out of here. All right. So people who have quit a job with no notice, what made you quit? I got called a pussy for refusing to handle the chemo drugs without PPE. Veterinarian hospital, no fucking thank you, not worth it. That's kind of crazy. Like, I'm not about to touch some shit without putting gloves and shit like that on. I wouldn't quit though. like that was a little much, if I'm being honest with you. I wouldn't quit, but I feel you, girl, but damn, I don't think that would make me quit. All right, people who have quit a job with no notice, what happened? Going forward, we're going to give you managerial duties. Will that include sick and vacation days? We'll revisit that in the next 6 months. But in the meantime, we will need to readjust your pay to be higher. Not initially, bruh. Nah. Bruh. Nah. You don't want to give me more work and then not pay me more. That's some of that bullshit right there. Man, nah. No. I would have done the same. I don't think I would have quit. I don't think I would have quit. But I'd have been like, no, thank you. I'm good. I don't want these managerial duties. You can give them to somebody else. Because again, I'm not about to do extra work for no extra pay. You must got me fucked up. That's crazy. That is some crazy talk right there. Hell nah. All right, people who have quit a job with no notice. What happened? They wanted me to work more hours and made me choose between work or college. College it was. It was a retail store. Oh, that's crazy. And they're supposed to work with your schedule too. You know what I mean? Like, it's a thing where they work with your schedule and, like, come on, man. Because I've worked at a retail store before. You know what I mean? And when I was going to college for animation design, they worked around my school schedule just fine. Like, they didn't make me work extra hours. When I needed to take days off, I took days off. When I had to call off, I had to call off. It was what it was. They worked around my schedule. The fact that they weren't willing to work around your schedule is kind of crazy to me. But there are some, like, stores where you just have managers that are just assholes and they just don't get it. You know what I mean? Their whole life is the retail store and retail job and all that kind of, and you're just like, bro, this is not my job. This is a stepping stone. Like, get the fuck out of here. All right, people who have quit their job with no notice. What happened? Every single person in my department had been immediately dismissed after giving their 2 weeks. So when it came time for me to leave, I took all my PTO, came back from my vacation, dropped off my badge at my desk, and walked out. Oh, shit. Yo. That's crazy. Everyone in your department was just like, 2 weeks. Yo. I mean, I would have done the same thing too. Like, if I'm going to be leaving, you might as well just let me use all my PTO up on my last 2 weeks. Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, I might as well just be able to use all my paid time off to be off. I don't give a shit to be here anymore. Like, you guys are lucky I gave y'all 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck are we talking about here? Like, I would have just left. But, I wanted to be courteous. People who have quit their job with no notice. What happened? My boss said out loud in front of everyone that none of us in the warehouse were worth what we're being paid. Two Two of us actually walked out that day over it. That's crazy. That's great. The fact that, don't get me wrong. Look, the reality of warehouse jobs is that, yes, anybody can fucking do your job. Like, let's be honest. All right. The reality is anybody can do your fucking job. But to sit there and tell somebody that they're fucking useless is crazy. And they're replaceable is wild, man. Like, some people don't get that when they say something, that actually has consequences to it and reactions. Like, these are people. Like, bro, do you not understand that? You know what I mean? Damn. That's mad fucked up. People who have quit their job with no notice. What happened? The store manager had been consistently telling me to keep an eye on the regional manager for stealing from the store. The regional manager had told me to keep an eye on the store manager from stealing from the store. Wait, hold up. Who's stealing? Because I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. Somebody's stealing. One day, petty cash comes up to $100 even short. And both managers are raging at all the hourly employees trying to find it. It was too much drama for me, and I just walked out. Turns out both the store and the regional manager were stealing from the store. That's crazy, bro. They were both, I guarantee you, he stole $50 and the other dude stole $50. And then they're wondering where $100 is at. And I'm sure he's just like, I only took $50. Who the fuck stole another $50? Holy shit. But at the same time, he was probably just like, I got an idea. Oh, yeah. I can blame it on one of these motherfuckers and be like, yeah, it was $100. They're never gonna know. Bruh. I guarantee you that manager, both of them, probably got caught on camera so many times. So many times they probably got caught on camera doing that bullshit, bruh. Oh my God. That's crazy. I hope they got fired for that shit. People who have quit a job with no notice. What happened? I once quit a job with no notice because I shit my pants. Also with no notice. Yo, that's gotta suck, bro. Imagine it's your first day on the job and you straight doo-doo your pants, man, and you're just like, oh, bro. And then you just quit. You're like, you know what? This job is unfair labor practices. I quit. Oh, man, dude, that's crazy. He said I shit my pants, and that's why I quit. That's wild. Oh, damn. I'm sure at least one or two people knew, and they were like, yeah, you want to know the real reason why that motherfucker quit? He shit his pants, bro. People who have quit a job with no notice. What happened? Hostile work environment. A supervisor 20 years my junior and been with the company about 15 years less than me decided to scream at me in front of customers. He'd done that to others who had no choice but to take it, but I didn't need that job. I was almost retirement age and had enough years with the company to retire. I walked right out the front door, middle of my shift, never looked back. Best work-related decision I ever made. I got to my car that day and felt like a 50-pound weight had just been lifted off my shoulders. I had been with that company since 1989, goddamn, and invested my stocks and profit share wisely. So suck it, Walmart. Yeah, fuck you, Wally World. Yo, bitch. Nobody likes you, man. Because I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. Back when I used to work store or retail and shit, I never let the supervisors talk to me that way. Ever. Anytime that they got disrespectful and shit like that, oh, you best believe I got disrespectful back. Oh, you best believe I got disrespectful back. Like, fuck ya. Who you talking to? You know what I mean? Like, who the fuck you talking to? I don't give a shit who you are. I don't give a fuck who you talking to, because that should be mad annoying. Because you'll get those supervisors that'll sit there and they'll act like they king shit and all that kind of stuff. And in reality, you're just like, bro, calm the fuck down. You know what I mean? Like, if you got legitimate reasons, to be like saying things to me and stuff like that. Like, okay, that's one thing, but you don't got to be disrespectful about it. You know, like, especially right up off the bat. Yeah, I'm walking into this place. Sure, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But you ain't got to be mad disrespectful about it. You know, like, that's what's crazy to me, man. Like, I always talked back to him. I ain't gonna lie to you. And that's what I loved about us being union workers. These bitch ass niggas couldn't fire me. You know, and it's one of those things where the company looks at it like, oh, well, it's a fight to fire him, but I could just fire him. You know what I mean? And so the supervisors, a lot of times, they bent the knee because they knew they weren't union. They could just get fired over anything. So a lot of times they didn't fight you because I was union. I could fight the company back. You can't. So watch how you talk to me. You know what I mean? And all my union workers out there know your supervisor can't talk shit like that. They can't talk to you like that. Just know that. You're protected. They're not. And a lot of times those supervisors will hush up because they know. They know the company is going to look at it like, fuck, it's going to be a fight to fire him. But, you know, for him, we could just let him go. You know what I mean? And what do you think the company's going to do? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, come on now. Trust me. Use that union, bro. Fuck them. All right, people who quit a job with no notice. What happened? Wife was sick in the ER in the hospital I worked at, pregnant with our first child. Boss wouldn't let me go off to be with her. Wait. Oh, okay. I see what's up. All right. Because I was like, wait a minute. Your wife was pregnant and you're working in the ER pregnant with the... Wait, like what? Hold on. Yeah, so she pregnant, working at the ER, and then her wife was sick and came in. All right, we good. I quit then and there and went to the ER. He promised I would never work there again. We moved to another town to complete my doctorate. 4 years later, we sat in the same room in a meeting in that same hospital. He asked what I was doing there. I told him I was months away from holding the same title as him. He had a heart attack about a year later. Karma caught up to him. Damn. Karma is a bitch, bruh. Karma is a bitch. And that's what happens when you're just not a nice person. You know what I mean? That's what gets to you when you're just not a nice person. And it's like one of those things where, bro, it's easy as fuck to be a nice person. You know what I mean? Like, just be a nice person. Like, why is that so hard for some people? You know? Like, what's going on here? Why is it so hard for some people to just simply be nice? You know? It's crazy to me to actually think that. It's just like, bro, why is it so hard for you to just simply be a decent human being? You know, be understanding. Like, what the fuck, man? Hey, like I said, karma's a bitch, bro. People who have quit a job with no notice. What happened? Being micromanaged, my boss made everyone buy a notebook and write down everything we did during the day and how long it took to complete the task. We had to hand them in at the end of the day. If he thought we took too long to do something, he would cut our hours. That was the final straw for me. There were so many things wrong with that place. Yeah, I would quit too. The fuck are you talking about? I have to know how long I did each task and I have to write down it. Nah, bro, I'm not doing that. What the fuck? And then if you feel like, not the company, if you feel like I took too long on that task, I get my hours cut? Bro, you're fucking with my livelihood. You know what I mean? Like, bro, think about it. If you're a 40-hour worker, right? And you're living paycheck to paycheck. And then he decides, oh, well, you didn't do the spreadsheet fast enough. And then he decides, I'm going to cut your hours by 8 hours. And you're like, bro, my rent's coming up. Bro, my car payment's coming up. You know what I mean? Like, think about that. That's fucked up. I would have went to main office and been like, bro, no, this is ridiculous. Like, he can't do this. You know what I mean? I'd have gone to the top, bro, because that's crazy. That is fucking crazy. People who have quit a job with no notice. What happened? Boss changed his schedule at a high adventure outside recreation facility. Told everybody but me, so I'm middle manager late, but usually I'm really early. Luckily, I was able to get everything open on time. However, the rest of the employees couldn't get in touch with me, no service, so they called him. He shows up reeking of pot and whiskey after we open, only to see that everything is running like a well-oiled machine because I had a staff that I respected and they respected me. Boss doesn't like that he made a mistake and now everyone knows, so he starts yelling, "You better be glad we're short-staffed or you would be so fucking fired. Fuck you, man." And gave me a double air middle finger as he threw open the door. My staff and all our guests are looking at this point, so I gently laid my keys and radio on the desk and told him that he was short-staffed now. I then told the staff they didn't have a sober manager on duty, so they needed to lock up the towers. I told the office manager to issue refunds or reschedules for everybody there. I then called his boss, the owner, and calmly explained what happened. Yeah, facts. Facts. Just like the dude that made you write down every fucking task and how long it took, and he would cut hours if he felt like it took too long. Yeah, this is the same situation, bro. Take it to the top, because it's like, how are you going to come in late, mind you, drunk and reeking like weed, and then you gonna be sitting there yelling at everybody, talking about they would be fired and this and that? Like, bro, nah, fam, nah, we ain't doing that, bro. We ain't doing that, because that's wild. That is absolutely wild to even think that that it would be okay for you to just walk up in here reeking of weed and smell like whiskey and yelling at motherfuckers. Like, yeah, I would leave too. I'd have been like, you know what? Nah, bro. Fuck you. You know, I'm taking this all the way to the top, baby. All the way. All right. People who have quit a job with no notice. What happened? Toxic environment, zero respect, and constant gaslighting. One morning I realized I didn't owe them an explanation for saving my peace, so I just didn't show up. Hey, I feel it. I feel it, man. I wouldn't either. Especially if you're just constantly getting dealt that, bad hand and they're just yelling and doing stupid shit. Yeah, I would too, bro. I ain't gonna cap to. I would too. All right, this is going to be our last one, and then we'll get into announcements and then into our book. So people who have quit a job with no notice, what happened? Boss accused me of stealing. I quit on the spot. Money was hidden right where it was supposed to be. I assumed he was too high to see it. He apologized later, but too late. Yo, that's crazy, because you got to understand, like, in a job, when you're accused of something, like, that reputation sticks with you. It's not a thing where, oh, never mind, I found it. Oh, he's not a thief, and everybody's just like, oh, great, he's not. No, that shit sticks with you. You know what I mean? Even if people, find out that, oh, no, he didn't do it, this and that, they're still going to kind of be like, I don't know. You know what I mean? It brings out skepticism, and then it brings out, catty gossip and all that kind of stuff, because then it makes them think like, oh, is he covering for him? Oh, did he say that and then just kind of covered him so he doesn't get fired? Or, you know what I mean? It just, it's never good. It's never good. Because I remember I worked at a store one time, and my manager in the seafood department, he was sweethearting people. Yeah. He was sweethearting people. And for those who don't know what sweethearting is, it's when you pretty much mark something a lower price than it actually is for someone that you know. All right. And so he was doing that with the fish. So people he would know would come in and he would mark it as a cheaper item and give it to them. And apparently, the company knew. And it was one of those things where our boss, like, he knew that he was doing that. He just, he didn't want to accuse him just yet. And so he accused him one time, and once he accused him, then it was one of those things where it was just like, he couldn't prove it. And so then, the accusation stuck and stuff like that. And then obviously later on they ended up catching him. But it was a thing where, like, once they accused him the first time of doing it, because we didn't know at that time. The manager just accused, and everybody was like, what? He's doing that? He's doing that? And so then once, the manager couldn't prove it, he was like, oh, okay, I'm sorry, for thinking you were sweetheart and this and that, blah, blah, blah. Everybody was skeptical about him. But he didn't know that everybody was skeptical about him, that everybody kind of had this, kind of like, are you sweetheart or are you not? You know what I mean? It started to put this in everybody's mind. And if he would have just kept not doing it, nobody would have ever known that later on he started doing it. But because he got accused of it and everybody just kept that kind of skepticism, it's what got him caught. But it's just the fact that, like, once that accusation goes out, it sticks. Everybody thinks of you as that person, and they kind of expect it out of you. And that's why when he did get caught, they were like, no shit. You know what I mean? Like, no shit, he got caught. Like, duh. Like, manager accused him a couple weeks ago. So, yeah, it is definitely one of those things, man. Oh my goodness, but that's going to go ahead and be today's thread. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you have a scenario where you or a friend or anyone you know or whatever the case may be quit a job for some crazy reason, definitely let me know down in the comments. We're going to get into announcements and then right into our lovely book. So patreon.com/Am I the Asshole Podcast, get an exclusive episode every single Friday, as well as being able to send in your scenario to be featured on the Tuesday and Sunday show. All right. Audio listeners, thank you guys so much for all the support. You guys are the real goats, and I appreciate you so very much for all that you guys do to support the podcast, whether it's rating 5 stars on your preferred platform or it's just downloading the episodes and coming back every week. Love you guys, and I appreciate you so much. If you want to help out even more, go ahead and follow us on Instagram, TikTok, as well as YouTube. All of that helps out tremendously, and it's all free. So thank you guys so much. If you enjoy live streams, we do live stream every Friday, Sunday, and Monday. I try to be as consistent as I can with streaming. Sometimes I can't just because, life be life and things get in the way. But I do try to stream every Friday, Sunday, and Monday. Catch us on Twitch, Kick, YouTube, or TikTok. We stream. I try to stream everywhere, no matter where you like to, watch live streams, whatever. I try to stream everywhere for you guys. All right, but without further ado, let's get right on into our book, okay? I believe it's chapters 29 and 30. So let's get on into this.
Chapter 29. Vivian. Congrats! You had your first fight as a real couple. Let's toast to that. Isabella raised her mimosa in the air, her smile totally sincere. Maya and Sloane's glasses remained on the table. It's not something to celebrate, Issa, I said wryly. Of course it is. You wanted the full couple experience. That includes fights, especially over family. She finished her drink, undeterred by our unwillingness to participate in her toast. Honestly, couples who don't fight freak me out. They're like one broken dish away from snapping. The next thing you know, they'll be the subjects of a Netflix documentary series titled Love and Murder, The Couple Next Door. I couldn't help but laugh. You listen to way too much true crime. Isabella, Sloane, and I were eating brunch at a hot new spot in the Bowery. It had been 2 days since my fight with Dante, and I was still fuming over it. Not because he was wrong, but because he was right. Nothing stung more than the acrid taste of truth. It's research, Isabella said. Therefore, it's work. You can't blame me for working overtime, can you? Look at Sloane. She's on her phone even though the world's best Eggs Benedict is sitting untouched in front of her. It's not untouched. I ate 2 bites. Sloane finished whatever she was typing and looked up. You try enjoying your food when one of your clients posts a social media tirade about their very famous ex-wife and proceeds to get into online arguments with... She checked her phone again. User 59806 about who should drive their car off a cliff first. Sounds tame for the internet, Isabella said. I'm kidding. Sort of. Look, there's not much you can do about it now except take away your client's social media access, which I assume you've already done. People will act stupid all day, every day. Enjoy your food and deal with them later. 2 hours of digital detox won't kill you. She pushed Sloane's plate closer to her. Plus, you need energy for all the fire breathing you'll do later. Sloane pursed her lips. I suppose you're right. I'm always right. Now, Isabella shifted her attention back to me. This fight. I think you should let it go on for another day before you have hot makeup sex. 3 days is adequate time for all that tension to build, and Issa... I'm sorry. I don't have a sex life at the moment, okay? I'm living vicariously through you. She sighed. And the argument isn't a deal breaker, right? He's kind of... right. Silence cloaked the table. I stared at my half-eaten plate, my skin icy despite the warmth from 2 mimosas. Don't get me wrong. I know how you feel. Isabella's voice softened. But I think it's one of those cultural differences that'll take time to smooth over. Dante cares about you, or he wouldn't have been so upset. He's just not great at expressing his thoughts tactfully. I know. My sigh carried days' worth of agonizing. It's just hard to remember that when I'm in the moment and he's being so stubborn. In Dante's world, his word was law. He was always right, and people bent over backward to accommodate or appease him. But that was the thing. It wasn't just his world anymore. It was ours, at least when it came to our home life. Arranged marriage or not, I'd signed up for a husband, not a boss. I just wasn't sure he knew that. He's Dante Russo, Sloane said, as if that explained everything. Inflexibility is his middle name. Personally, I think you should make him sweat. Shut him out until he comes to his senses. Great, so we'll be waiting until the turn of the next century, Isabella said. Viv, what do you want to do? Vivian, what a pleasant surprise. A smooth, creamy voice interrupted our conversation. I straightened when an elegant older woman with a sleek silver bob and the skin of someone 30 years her junior stopped next to our table. Buffy, it's nice to see you, I said, hiding my surprise. She and her friends rarely stepped foot outside their uptown bubble. How are you? I pointedly ignored Isabella's quiet splutter when I mentioned the name Buffy. I'm well, dear. Thank you for asking. The 65-year-old grande dame looked immaculate as always in a cream silk blouse, gray tailored pants, and Mikimoto pearl drop earrings. I normally don't come all the way down to the Bowery. Her tone insinuated the 25-minute car ride from her house was as arduous as the trek from Fifth Avenue to Brooklyn. But I hear the brunch here is divine. The best lobster eggs Benedict in town. I gestured at an empty chair. Would you like to join us? Neither of us wanted her to stay, but it was the polite thing to ask. Oh, what a sweet offer. But no, thank you, Buffy said on cue. Bunny and I reserved the corner table. She's glaring at me as we speak. She simply hates sitting alone in public. She shot a reproving look at where a well-groomed blonde woman sat with her equally well-groomed toy poodle poking out of the top of her Hermes bag. Dogs weren't allowed in the restaurant, but people like Buffy and her friends operated by different rules. However, I wanted to stop by and congratulate you in person on securing Valhalla for the Legacy Ball venue. It's generated quite the buzz. Thank you, I murmured. I'd tried my best to find other alternatives, but none of them panned out, so I'd reluctantly gone with Dante's Valhalla Club suggestion. I'd insisted on putting together the pitch, which he presented to the management committee since they didn't allow non-members in the meeting. The approval process took almost a month, but I received the final confirmation 2 weeks ago. While part of me thrilled at landing such an exclusive venue, another part worried about what it would cost Dante. Not monetarily, but in terms of leverage and reciprocation. I'm sure Dante put in a good word for you. Buffy smiled. It pays to marry a Rousseau, doesn't it? My own smile tightened. The dig was subtle, but it was there. Since we're on the subject of the ball, I have a suggestion regarding the entertainment, she said. It's a shame Corelli lost his voice and can no longer perform. The famous opera singer was on hiatus while his voice recovered. The issue wasn't as severe as the venue flooding, but it was yet another problem in the pile that was mounting daily. Murphy's law of event planning. Something always went wrong, and the more important the event, the more went wrong. Don't worry, I've already confirmed an alternative, I said. There's a wonderful jazz singer who agreed to perform for half her regular rate, considering the audience that'll be in attendance. How lovely, Buffy said. However, I was thinking we should book Veronica Foster instead. Veronica Foster? The sugar heiress? She's transitioned into the music scene, Buffy said smoothly. I'm sure she would appreciate the opportunity to perform at the ball. As would I. Her pointed statement pierced my confusion. I suddenly remembered the other reason why Veronica's name sounded familiar. She was Buffy's goddaughter. I'm happy to meet with her and review her tape if she has one. I kept my tone measured despite the knots twisting my stomach. However, I can't guarantee a spot in the lineup. As you know, the schedule is tight, and I've already agreed to book the jazz singer. Buffy's eyes cooled into blue ice. I'm sure she'd understand if you had to cancel, she said, her smile intact but sharper. More deadly. This is an important event, Vivian. There's a lot riding on it, including your reputation and place in society. The unspoken threat hung over the table like a guillotine. Across from me, Isabella and Sloane watched the scene play out with wide eyes and icy fury, respectively. I could tell Sloane was holding back some choice epithets, but thankfully she didn't intervene. She didn't need to. Between my parents' visit, my argument with Dante, and headaches I'd encountered with the ball, I'd reached the end of my rope. Yes, there is, I said in response to Buffy. Frost layered beneath my otherwise polite tone. That's why every detail must be flawless, including the performers. As the chair of the Legacy Ball Committee, I'm sure you understand anything less than perfection on stage would not be ideal. I have full faith in Veronica's commitment to her craft, which is why an audition shouldn't be a problem. Wouldn't you agree? The sounds from the restaurant became white noise as my heartbeat drummed in my ears. I was taking a huge risk, insulting Buffy in front of other people, but I was sick of people trying to manipulate me into doing what they wanted. She could blacklist me after the ball, but until then, it was my name on the invitations and my professional reputation on the line. I'd be damned if I let anyone destroy what I'd worked years for in the name of poorly concealed nepotism. Buffy stared at me. In reality, the silence lasted less than a minute, but every second stretched for an eon until her initial shock melted into something more inscrutable. Yes, she finally said. I suppose you're right. Her voice was as cold as her eyes, but if I didn't know better, I'd say it contained the tiniest hint of respect. Enjoy the rest of your meal. She turned to leave, but before she did, she cast a last look at me. And Vivian, I expect this to be the best legacy ball in the event's history. Buffy departed in a cloud of Chanel No. 5 and icy regality. Her exit pulled the pent-up air from my lungs. I slumped, no longer held upright by indignation and a need to prove she couldn't walk all over me. Telling off Buffy Darlington. Sloane's green eyes glittered with rare admiration. Impressive. I didn't tell her off, I refuted. I presented an alternative viewpoint. You told her off, Isabella said. There was a moment when I thought she would have a coronary and collapse right into your eggs. Buffy and Benedict, the new brunch combo. We stared at each other for a moment, stunned by the cheesiness of her joke, before we broke into laughter. Maybe it was the alcohol, or maybe we were all delirious from overworking and lack of sleep, but once we started, we couldn't stop. Tears sprung to my eyes, and Isabella's shoulders shook so hard the table rattled. Even Sloane was laughing. "Speaking of bee names," Isabella said after our mirth finally died down to a manageable level. "Did I hear wrong? Or did she say she was here with her friend Bunny?" "Bunny Van Houten," I confirmed with a grin. "Wife of Dutch shipping magnate Dirk Van Houten." Horror wiped the remaining amusement from Isabella's face. "Who comes up with these names?" she demanded. "Is there a rule that the richer you are, the uglier your name has to be?" "They're not that bad." "Buffy and Bunny, Viv! Buffy and Bunny!" Isabella shook her head. "Once I have the power, I'm banning all names beginning with the letters B and U. God forbid they add a Bubby to their group." I couldn't help it. I burst into laughter again, with Isabella and Sloane joining me soon after. God, I needed this. Food, drinks, and a fun, silly morning with my friends, the Buffy incident notwithstanding. Sometimes it was the simple things in life that kept us going. We lingered for another hour before we left. I insisted on covering the meal since they'd spent the majority of the time listening to my problems, and I'd just paid the check when my phone buzzed. My heart flipped when I read the new message, but I kept my expression neutral as we exited the restaurant. "There's a new romantic comedy coming out next week," Sloane said. "Let's watch it." Isabella eyed her with suspicion. "Will you actually watch the movie this time, or will you just complain during the entire film?" Sloane slid on her sunglasses. "I don't complain. I provide real-time criticism of the film's application in the real world." "It's a rom-com," I said. "They're not supposed to be realistic." Some people liked to unwind by reading or getting a massage. Sloane liked to watch romantic comedies and type up dissertation-length papers detailing every single thing she disliked about the movie. And yet, she kept watching them. "We'll agree to disagree," she said. "Next Thursday after work. Does that work?" We'd survived years of rom-com evisceration. We'd survive another night. After we confirmed the movie date and parted ways, I wound my way up 4th Street toward Washington Square Park. My pulse thudded louder with each step until it crescendoed at the sight of a familiar, tall, dark figure standing by the arch. The park bustled with street musicians, photographers, and students in NYU sweatshirts, but Dante stood out like a slash of boldness against a faded backdrop. Even in a plain white t-shirt and jeans, his presence was powerful enough to draw not-so-subtle stares from passers-by. Our eyes connected across the street. Electricity crackled down my spine, and it took me an extra beat to start walking after the last car passed. I stopped 2 feet from him. The sounds of music, laughter, and car honks fell away, as if he existed within a force field that prevented any outside intrusion. "Hi," I said, oddly breathless.
"Hi."
He tucked his hands in his pockets, the gesture endearingly boyish compared to his rugged features and broad, muscled frame.
"How was brunch?"
"Good." I pushed a lock of hair behind my ear. "How was your day?" I had no clue what he'd been doing that morning.
"I beat Dominic in tennis. He was pissed."
A crooked smile formed on Dante's lips.
"Good day."
A laugh bubbled up my throat. It had only been 2 days, but I missed him. His dry humor, his smiles, even his scowls. He was the only person who could make me miss every individual part of him as much as his whole. The good, the bad, and the mundane. His eyes and mouth sobered.
"I wanted to apologize,"
he said.
"for Friday night. You were right. I should have tried harder to understand where you were coming from instead of ambushing you when we went home."
His voice carried the stiffness of someone delivering an apology for the first time, but the underlying sincerity melted any grudge I might have held. You were right, too, I confessed. I don't like admitting it out loud, but I am different around my parents. I wish I wasn't, but I blew out a breath. There are some things that might be too late to change. I was 28. My parents were in their late 50s or early 60s. At what point were our habits and dynamics so ingrained that trying to change them would be akin to trying to bend a concrete pillar?
It's never too late for change.
Dante's eyes softened further.
You're fucking perfect the way you are, Vivian. If your parents can't see that, then it's their loss.
His words grabbed hold of my heart and squeezed. To my horror, a familiar prickle sprung up behind my eyes, and I had to blink it away before I spoke again. Maybe I'll wear a silk suit instead of tweed at our next dinner, I half-joked. Spice things up a bit.
Silk suits you better anyway. Next time they drop in for a surprise visit, we can also tell them we've contracted a terrible, highly contagious stomach bug and lock ourselves in our apartment until they leave.
I like it. I tilted my head. But what would we do, locked all day in the apartment? He slid me a wicked grin.
I can think of a few things.
Heat washed over my skin, and I fought back a blossoming smile. I'm sure you can. So, I said, switching topics, do you have any plans for the rest of the day?
Yes.
He slid his hand into mine, the action as casual and natural as breathing.
I'm spending it with you.
My smile broke free, as did the butterflies in my stomach. Just like that, we were okay again. It wasn't a long reconciliation, but it didn't need to be. Moving on didn't always involve big gestures or heavy talks. Sometimes the most meaningful moments were the small ones. A softening glance here, a simple but sincere apology there. Perfect, I said. I kept my hand in his as we walked away from the park. Because there's a new exhibit at the Whitney I've been dying to check out. Chapter 30. Vivian. I'm sorry, you want us to go where? I looked up from my sushi and pinned Dante with a disbelieving stare.
Paris.
He leaned back, the picture of nonchalant ease. Jacket off, tie loosened, expression unruffled like he hadn't just suggested I drop everything to jet off to Europe. It was Wednesday, 5 days after our short-lived fight and 3 days after our reconciliation. We were eating lunch in my office and having a perfectly pleasant conversation when he dropped the Paris bombshell out of nowhere.
I found out today I have to meet some of our subsidiary CEOs there ahead of the Cannes Film Festival,
he said.
My VP was supposed to do it, but his wife went into early labor. I'm leaving Saturday and staying there for a week.
Normally, I would have jumped at the chance to join him. Paris was one of my favorite cities, and I was long overdue for another visit. But I couldn't drop everything to cavort around France when the Legacy Ball was only weeks away. I can't, I said reluctantly. I have to be here for ball prep. Dante raised his eyebrows.
I thought everything's pretty much set.
Technically, he was right. The venue was secured, the caterers on track, and the seating charts and entertainment finalized. Veronica Foster turned out to be surprisingly talented, and I'd squeeze her in for a short performance at the end of the night. But with my luck, something would go wrong the minute I stepped foot on French soil. Yes, but still, this is the biggest event of my career. I can't fly off at the last minute. My team needs me.
Your team seems competent enough to hold down the fort for 5 days.
Dante tapped the stack of papers on my desk.
You'll still have over a week when we get back to finalize everything, and you don't need to be physically in New York to do your work in the meantime. I'll be busy in the mornings too, so we work during the day and explore Paris at night. Win-win.
What about the time difference? I argued. My team will still be working when it's evening in Paris.
So schedule your meetings for the early afternoon. It'll be morning here.
Dante said, practical as always.
It's Paris in spring, mia cara. Beautiful flowers, fresh croissants, walks along the Seine.
I don't know. I wavered, torn between the picture he painted and my paranoia that something would go wrong.
I already booked a suite at the Ritz.
Dante paused before dropping the second bombshell of the day.
And you can pick out a gown from the Yves Dubois showroom for the ball.
My breath stilled in my lungs. That's cheating. Yves Dubois was one of the world's top couturiers. He produced only 8 gowns a year, each one of them unique and exquisitely handcrafted. He was also notoriously picky about who he allowed to wear one of his creations. Rumor had it he once turned away a world-famous movie star who'd wanted to wear his design to the Oscars.
It's an incentive.
Dante grinned.
If you really can't or don't want to come, you don't have to. But you've been working damn hard these past few months. You deserve a little break.
Nice way to spin it. Are you sure it's not because you have separation anxiety? I teased.
I didn't used to.
His eyes held mine like a lone flame flickering on a cold winter night.
But I'm beginning to think I might.
Warmth filled my stomach and rushed to the surface of my skin. I shouldn't. But maybe I was tired of living my life by shoulds. I made my final decision in a split second. Then I guess I'm going to Paris. Over the next 2 days, I prepped my team as much as I could. I gave them 6 different numbers where they could reach me, and ran through emergency protocols so many times I thought Shannon would march me onto the plane herself before she strangled me. Still, I remained apprehensive about the trip until I was in the car on our way to our hotel, watching the city whiz by outside the window. Like New York, Paris was a love-it-or-hate-it type of city. I happened to love both. The food, the fashion, the culture, there was nothing quite like it, and once I was actually in Paris, it was easy to get lost in the magic of it all. Our first 3 days consisted of settling in, and in my case, adjusting to my new work schedule. I spent the quiet morning hours knocking out administrative tasks and took meetings in the afternoon, when my team and New York-based vendors were online. I thought I'd be distracted by the draw of the city outside my window, but I was surprisingly productive. That being said, I couldn't resist a quick shopping trip to Rue Saint-Honoré. And, of course, a visit to Yves Dubois' showroom, where I spent 2 hours choosing and fitting a gown for the Legacy Ball.
Not that one.
Yves pursed his lips when I ran my fingers over a breathtaking blush and silver beaded piece.
Pink is too soft for you, darling. You need something bolder, more daring, something that'll make a statement.
He tilted his head, his eyes narrowed, before he snapped his fingers.
Frederic, bring me the Phoenix gown.
His assistant darted out of the room and returned minutes later with the piece in question. I sucked in an audible breath.
My latest creation.
Yves said with a flourish.
800 hours to unshawl, bursts of gold thread embroidered over the entire surface of the gown. My finest work to date, in my humble opinion.
Nothing about Yves was humble, but he was right. It was his finest work to date. I couldn't tear my eyes away from it.
Normally, it's $150,000.
He said.
But for you, the future Mrs. Rousseau, to wear it at the Legacy Ball, 130,000 even.
It was a no-brainer. I'll take it. That night, Dante returned to a hotel suite littered with shopping bags on the floor, tables, and half the bed. Yves would send my gown directly to New York, so I didn't need to worry about ruining it on our flight back. But I may have gone a little overboard on the shopping.
Should I have booked a separate room for your purchases?
Dante eyed the pile of Dior hat boxes on the bed. You should have, but it's too late for that. I locked my new Bulgari diamond necklace in the hotel safe before I fished something from one of the smaller bags. I bought you something, too. I handed him the small black box and waited, heart thudding, while he opened it. His eyebrows shot up when he popped open the lid. They're ice cream cufflinks, I said brightly. I know a jeweler on Rue de la Paix who makes customized pieces. The onyx is the soy sauce. The ruby is the cherry, even though you don't eat it with cherry, but I think the red ties the design together. It was a half-joke gift, half sincere. Dante owned dozens of luxury cufflinks, but I wanted to give him something more personal. Do you like them? I asked.
I love them.
He removed his current cufflinks and replaced them with the new ones.
Thank you, Miyagata.
The warmth of his voice caressed my skin before he cupped my face with one hand and kissed me. We never made it out to dinner that night. Our other nights, however, were filled with whatever activities struck our fancy. We wandered through the charming book-lined nooks of Shakespeare and Company, explored the Louvre after hours, and pretended to watch black-and-white French indie films in an art house cinema while secretly making out in the back like teenagers. I'd visited Paris many times, but exploring it with Dante was like seeing it for the first time. The smells wafting from the bakeries, the texture of cobblestones beneath my feet, the rainbow of flowers blooming all over the city. Everything was brighter, more vivid, like someone had sprinkled fairy dust over the city. On our last night, Dante took me to a private dinner at the Eiffel Tower. The monument had 3 restaurants. Ours was on the 2nd floor and offered spectacular views of the skyline. He'd booked the entire space, so it was just us, the 7-course menu, and the city laid out at our feet in all its glittering nighttime glory. Okay, what's one food you can't stand that everyone loves? I swallowed a thin slice of sea bass before adding, I'll go first. Olives. I hate them. They're a blight to humanity.
I want to say I'm surprised, but you're the same person who eats pickles with chips and pudding, so...
Dante lifted his wine to his lips.
Enough said.
I narrowed my eyes. I'm not the one who cleaned out our pickle supply 2 weeks ago because he couldn't stop stealing my snack.
Don't be dramatic. Greta bought more pickles the next day.
He laughed at my frown.
To answer your question, I can't stand popcorn. The texture's weird and it smells awful even when it's not burnt.
Seriously? Then what do you eat during movies?
Nothing. Movies are for watching, not eating food.
I stared at him. Sometimes I'm convinced you're an alien and not an actual human being. Another laugh rolled over me.
We all have our quirks, Miyagata. At least I don't sing Mariah Carey in the shower.
My cheeks warmed. I did that once. I heard the song in a commercial and it got stuck in my head, okay?
I'm not saying it's a bad quirk.
The corner of his mouth tipped up.
It was cute, even if it was off-key.
I was not off-key, I muttered, but my indignation lasted only seconds in the face of his smile. How's the prep for Cannes? I asked when our server swapped out our empty plates for the 3rd course. Did you get everything done in time?
Yes, thankfully. If I had to sit in another meeting discussing what champagne we should serve at the after-party, I would have been arrested for murder.
He grumbled. I'm sure you would have found a way out of it. You're a Russo, I teased.
Yes, but the paperwork would have been a pain in the ass.
You love paperwork. That's what you do all day.
I'm going to pretend you didn't just insult me horribly in the middle of what's supposed to be a romantic last night in Paris.
He sounded wounded, but mischief glinted in his eyes. I laughed before asking, Do you ever think about what you would have been if you hadn't been born a Russo? His life had been set from day one. But where would he be if he could have chosen his own path?
Once or twice.
Dante shrugged, seemingly unconcerned.
I never know the answer. Work takes up most of my time, and while I enjoy my hobbies, boxing, tennis, travel, I wouldn't have entertained them as careers.
I frowned, strangely saddened by his answer.
I'm a businessman, Vivian.
He said.
That's what I was born to be. I enjoy my work, even if certain aspects are not always fun. Don't think I'm throwing my life's passion away to toil in a corner office because I feel obligated to.
I suppose he was right. Dante, brash, bold, charming when he wanted to be, but aggressive when provoked, was born to rule the boardroom. I couldn't imagine him in any other role other than CEO.
And you?
He asked.
If not event planning, what would you be doing?
I want to say I'd be an astronomer, but honestly, I'm terrible at math and science, I admitted. I don't know. I guess I'm like you. I'm happy doing what I'm doing. Event planning can be stressful, but it's fun, creative. And there's nothing more satisfying than taking an idea and bringing it to life. A smile touched his lips.
So we're both happy where we are.
The velvet weight of his words made my heart flip. Yes, I said. I suppose we are. The air turned thick and humid with meaning. I hesitated, then added softly, I'm glad I came to Paris. Dante's eyes were a lit match against my skin, bright and hot enough to burn.
Me too.
We stared at each other, our food forgotten. The weight of a dozen unspoken words sat between us and threatened to spill into the silence. Before they could, a harsh ring yanked our gazes apart and toward his phone. He let out a low curse in Italian.
I'm sorry, I have to take this.
He said.
Work emergency.
It's fine, I reassured him. Do what you have to do. He pushed back his chair and answered the call on his way toward the exit. I finished my course, but I was so distracted I barely tasted the langoustine. I'm glad I came to Paris. Me too. Even in Dante's absence, my pulse raced like it was competing for Olympic track and field gold. Like I said, I'd been to Paris many times. But this was the first time I was actually falling in love in the city of love.
All right. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Hope you guys enjoyed chapters 29 and 30 of King of Wrath. She went straight from hating this man back to loving this man again. They probably gonna fuck in the next episode. Yeah, you never know, man. Come back next week and see what happens, all right? Love you guys all. I will see you tomorrow if you're on Patreon. Enjoy the weekend, all that good stuff. If not, I'll see you back till Tuesday. Love you guys. Peace.